we'll start with LSU basketball today. Tigers defend their home floor for the second time in the week. They get a convincing 13-point win over Tennessee that really wasn't close until it got close there with 5 minutes to go. You were there. What was the environment like?
Yeah, it was buzzing. The P-Match was definitely buzzing. It was a great atmosphere, especially when we got to go on some of those runs and you saw them kind of feeding off the energy. You get a big lead like that, you have those lulls, and they made it a nice little run there to make that game tight down the stretch. But the roof blew off the place again when you kind of secured the victory. So, yeah, the PMAC was definitely buzzing.
Sure was, and it was a really good win. LSU rewarded for their week, beating Kentucky and Tennessee. They are ranked number 12 in both polls released today. So LSU, a top 15 basketball team after a good week last week. They're now 2-1 in the league. We'll go into the game. It went as expected early on. It was very difficult for either team to get points. A lot of feeling out of the defenses. I think a lot of teams have to do that when they play LSU because it's not a defense that you see week in, week out in any league with the amount of switching that LSU does and how versatile they are 1 through 5. LSU started the game 2 of 9 from the floor. Tennessee started the game 3 of 11 from the floor. And really the first big development in the entire game was Efton Reed going out with 2 fouls. And that's something that's happened a good amount here in his freshman year, and it's to be expected because he's a young player. He's dealing with guys who are bigger, faster, and stronger than anybody he's ever dealt with. And Will Wade said in the Auburn game the foul trouble was because his teammates let him down. They were going for steals and getting beat. They were getting beat off the dribble, putting him in spots where he was really helpless and he had to foul. That was not the case on Saturday. That second foul that he got, the ball was thrown into the elbow, and he just got blown by and threw a body check at a guy who had driven past him. So, he had to sit and went out early, but LSU kind of got the offense rolling after that 2 of 9 start. They were 10 of 14 over their next few minutes, and that opened up a 10-point lead. I thought at that point the offense really looked like it was in rhythm.
Yeah, it definitely did. And I think you saw guys starting to get to the basket, start hitting some perimeter shots. That's something that you really did just a way better job than Tennessee. They were shooting a lot of contested looks. You were getting the three-point looks. Days were shooting it with confidence. You had some other guys knock down some threes. And I think just feeding off the crowd and getting that energy, I think that's what kind of, you got that lead in the first half from that, and then they really just took from that lead and started building on it.
In the first half, LSU 6 of 10 from the three-point line, which is really good. Pinson knocked down a couple one off the dribble, which was really impressive. You saw Murray come in and knock down a shot. He is starting to get more and more comfortable as time goes on, and maybe missing him in that Auburn game was a bigger deal than you would be led to believe, just having a freshman not play. He's never going to be a guy – well, I shouldn't say that. Right to this point, he is not a guy that's going to go for 22 on a given night. He's not going to dish out 11 assists. He's not going to be a flashy player, but he's solid. He knocks down the open shot when he needs to. He does get to the rim. He's a really aggressive and good defender. And he was good in the first half, had 9 points on 3 of 4 shooting. And really for Tennessee, all their offense in the first half came from the free throw line because LSU got into that foul trouble. Tennessee in the first half was 13 of 19 from the free throw line because they got into the bonus with 6 minutes and 17 seconds to go. If you take away Tennessee's free throws, they didn't really do much in the first half. Now, that's good offense to get to the line and draw fouls. And LSU's defense, while I got a lot on Twitter of people saying the whistle's so unbalanced, LSU's got way more fouls than Tennessee, this is BS. And I'm going, look at how you play defense. Like, your guys are reaching and taking gambles constantly. Like, you're going to get called for that some.
Yeah, it's just a give and take, especially with that switching defense at, full court pressure. You're running a lot of 2-2-1 press. You got to be like play that defense aggressively. It's the only way to get those turnovers. It's the only way to, be pesky in the passing lanes. And sometimes you get those, those annoying, reach-in calls. Sometimes guys aren't moving their feet and get caught out of rotation. But I think they do a great job balancing. You see guys really don't get those open looks. If you do beat a guy off the dribble, there's a second guy coming there. And the rotations have been on point. So I wouldn't change anything about this defense. I think that's just a give and take with it right now.
Another first-half note before we get to the second half was Mwani Wilkinson, 2 of 3 from three-point range in the first half. Will Wade said all offseason, Mwani's made some strides offensively. He's going to be a force for us on the offensive end. And I'm sitting there going, look, I saw a guy last year as a freshman did nothing but catch dunks and rebounds, did nothing offensively. And he still doesn't do much putting the ball on the floor offensively. But he has developed a bit of a jump shot, and he stands out there in the corner, and you've got to honor him because he's making those shots now, and that's a huge development offensively for this team. You finished the first half really strong. You had the little sequence where you got 2 quick buckets thanks to a steal on the press, and that was really good. Everyone went nuts about the last possession of the first half because LSU's got the ball, you dribble it out, you get into your offense with 8 seconds, drop the ball, and you can't get a shot off. I thought that was a really nice job by Rick Barnes of going to zone when LSU was dribbling it out. I hadn't played zone all half. LSU they're going to go to 8 seconds and then run a high ball screen. They decide to get to the high ball screen with 8 seconds, and then it's a zone, which you, of course, can screen a zone. It's just not as effective, and LSU was kind of out of sorts there. Nice job by Rick Barnes. Wish LSU would have been a little more prepared for it, and then you drop the ball, so there's nothing you could do with it. But not disappointed everyone. But you got to the half in really good shape, up by 7 points. And in the second half, you really did a good job of pushing the lead to 20 points early on. You got a 20-point lead with 14 minutes and 13 seconds to go, and then you kind of went cold the last 10 minutes, 4 of 14, which is when Tennessee was able to kind of make the run. They cut it to 5 there, just under 3 minutes.
Yeah, that was a lot closer game than you would have ever expected, especially early on in that second half. You were dominating, you were forcing them to have turnovers, and then you saw LSU start having their own turnovers, not hitting down the perimeter shots. They were still getting to the free throw line and making their free throws. And they made that game a lot closer game than you would have liked to be in. They start feeding back off the crowd again, start getting some more stops. Days knocks down a 3, and then you start getting to the basket again. You saw Tari Eason, start making his impact on the game. So
yep.
You definitely don't want to be in those situations. I know that's going to be something Coach Wade wasn't very happy about, but I think the way they finished was strong, and they definitely used the crowd to feed off that energy.
Yeah, Tennessee didn't score in their last 3 minutes of game action, and LSU was able to salt it away and get that 13-point lead. Okay, I'll go ahead and tell my story of the game on Saturday. Obviously, we've got a 2-week-old baby at the house. Just not a time for me to get away and go to the basketball game on Saturday, so I watched from home. And we actually planned to go on our first little outing without the baby. We got the mother-in-law, and so we're going to go to dinner at 7:15 for a 5 o'clock game. I'm thinking that's probably enough time. Place is 5 minutes away from the house. We'll be good. So the game's running long, and I'm like, okay, I guess we'll just stay and be a little bit late to the dinner reservation. She was like, no, we have to get back to feed the baby after dinner. Like, we have to leave. So I'm not putting up a fight against that. We're going to have to leave. So with 4 minutes to go in the game, we're walking out the door, and I can no longer watch. But we can listen on the way to dinner. And I get in the car, and the first thing I hear is Chris Blair in the most somber tone of voice talk about Xavier Pinson collapsing on a non-contact play and grabbing his knee and then being helped off the floor in a silent PMAC. That's what I hear in the car. And I have resigned myself at that moment to believing the season's over. Like, that's really what I thought. I still, to this second, have not seen what happened. I looked it up on Twitter, tried to find it. I have not seen the fall. But I determined on the way to dinner on Saturday that LSU's basketball season was over. And then you find out in the postgame, Will Wade says, we think the original scan's okay. He's fine. Today, they were talking on Jordy's show a little earlier, just a level 1 sprain and a bone bruise. He is probably doubtful for Wednesday, but probable to play on Saturday against Arkansas. That made my day because I was just distraught when I thought that Pinson had popped his knee.
Yeah, it definitely did not look good. I was actually right behind that goal sitting there in my seats, and I saw it very close on, and it did not look very well. They were popping that knee, like doing the ACL test, and I was just hoping it was not an ACL. But the way he walked back in the arena, got the PMAC back buzzing again, and you kind of tell he's putting a lot of weight on it. So it couldn't have been something that dramatic or that serious. But, yeah, that would have been a huge blow. You probably would have to see a lot more of gains. And
well, you'd have lost your starting backcourt at that point. Miller and Pinson would have been your 1-2, and to have those two guys go out in a sport where you play 8 guys, that wasn't going to work. They would have probably still won some games, and they probably would have made the tournament based on the position that they would have put themselves in to this point. You figure they could still handle some of the games against the lesser teams in the SEC. But any real thoughts of contending for the conference or making a run in March with your starting backcourt out, it's just probably not realistic. It just wasn't. And I put on Twitter for the podcast, I was like, no questions tonight. I'm just sad. And then finally you get the news that everything appears to be as positive as it could be for that situation, which is a huge, huge plus for this LSU basketball program. So, again, you hold serve. You beat Tennessee and Kentucky on your home floor. You bounce back from a tough loss to Auburn. You're now ranked 12th in the country. Your net is in the top 5. It looks like it's at 4 right now. So you're in really, really good spot. You got another tough week coming up this week, but 2 teams that aren't playing as well as they have at times this year with Florida and Arkansas. So, look, you're in a really, really good spot right now. Had to get that stuff done, get a couple quad 1 wins under your belt. LSU did just that. 79-67 was the final.
Thanks so much for watching Hunt Hill on YouTube.
Now do us a favor. Hit the red subscribe button below and throw us a like. See you next time.